Hello everybody and welcome back to another CB Show Tunes tutorial. Now today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be fixing one of the issues that we had inside of previous tutorials with our marker, and of course we're going to be also working with our camera to be able to move it around the map, of course have it lock in at certain positions so it's not going to go all over the map, and yeah, stuff like that. So if you've been following along in part 1, part 2, and part 3, you should have a setup similar to this about grabbing your character objects, and you should already have your markers set up as well. Being able to move your character around like so, changing them to run, doing stuff like that, deselecting, grabbing a couple, and so on. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Now, as I've done with all my other previous tutorials, I am going to be posting the scripts down below. If you have I believe it's under mouse control script. This script I'm not actually going to post because it's just changing like two different variables. So I'm not going to actually post that script. So you may have to go to the previous tutorial to get that script and then edit it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be covering our marker. So let's go and do that. So to find your marker, we're going to go and select one of our players and we're going to select marker. So once we have marker selected, we're going to find our animator right here, and this should automatically be here. Now, if it's not there, make sure that you reselect marker. Say, for instance, if you have your player controller selected, then it's going to show your player animator. If you have your marker selected, it's going to show your marker animator. So once you got that done, we're going to erase the two different triggers that we set up here on our previous tutorial. And we're actually going to replace this with a boolean called isActive. It just made a whole lot more sense after a lot of time and thinking and all this sort of stuff. So just make sure that you create a boolean called that. All right, so once you got that done, make sure that you change these variables, and it's very simple. So select the first transition between invisible and fade in, and you're going to set isActive is equal to true. If this is not already there, simply select that arrow, select isActive, and then of course change it to true. You also have has exit time off, just like we did inside the previous tutorial. And same thing here, just changing isActive is equal to false, and has exit times off. And then of course lastly, fade out to invisible. We will have this as has exit time. Okay, so let's go and cover on our mouse control script. Oh, I got a mouse flying around here. Okay, so on our mouse control script, nope, it's actually not on our mouse control. I mean our player control script. So on our player control script, as I said before, I actually said the wrong name earlier, but we're going to be actually not posting this script. It's actually on the previous tutorial, so just go back to part 3, pick up the script for the player controller, and then you could just edit this when you get it. Okay, so right here you should see like two different triggers called marker anim.set trigger whatever is active is not active. And what we're going to do, make sure that you're underneath if is selected. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically change this from set trigger to set bool. It's very simple. Then after this right here, you're going to simply put a comma space and then put true. You're going to copy that, roll down here to is not selected, and then of course just change it to false. And there you go. That's all you got to do to fix the animation issues. Okay, so now for the main event of this, I guess you could say, tutorial. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be talking about setup. So with our setup, we basically want our camera to be controlled by, of course, our mouse. So if we move our mouse left, it's going to go left. If we move our mouse right, it's going to go right. I pointed in the wrong direction, and so on. So to do this, we're going to create an empty game object over here. So right-click inside your hierarchy and create an empty game object. I called mine camera control. I then aligned its position to about 30. And then I dragged my main camera into camera control. This, of course, allowed my main camera to become a child of the camera control object. Okay, so once you got that done, you're going to basically create this script. I will be posting this individual script inside the comment section below. So if you don't want to copy it, then you don't have to. So right here, this is it. It's a very simple script, and of course it works wonders. So at the top we have a couple public floats. You may be wondering why we have these two public floats all in two different lines. I was just doing it for organization purposes. If you want to just put a comma space and then just add the rest of these up top, you can do that if you want to. Okay, so we have an X post, Y post, and cam speed. Now, I'll describe what each one is for and why we have it. So X post is for our X position, and the reason why we have it is because we want to tell our game object where it is. So if we're at 1, if we're at 2, if we're at 25, we're at 50, we're at 100, it's basically just telling us our position. And this goes for the same thing with the Y post, except it's on the Y axis, or technically Z axis. And of course we have our cam speed. This decides how fast our camera is moving around the map. You may want to, say for instance, multiply this by time.delta time to slow it down and give it more of a smooth factor to it, but that's up to you. I believe you'd have to change it to an integer though. Okay, so underneath that we have an X-min, an X-max, a Y-min, and Y-max. So these stand for the values of what is our current greater value and what is our current lesser value. So we can only go, if you ever seen a graph in math, you have the dots on the x-axis and then you have the dots on the y-axis. So the negative is on this side and the negative is down while the positive is up and the positive's right. So that's how it works with this right here. You think of it like a vector 3 graph. That's pretty much what you're working with. Okay, so underneath the void update function, we're going to say xpost plus equals input.getMouse x multiplied by cam speed. A brief summary of all that is just saying xpost is equal to wherever we move our mouse multiplied by our camera speed. That's, I guess you could say, the easiest way. Keep in mind you will need to write this exactly as it is here. Otherwise, it may have issues and you will not be able to use that script. And of course, you have ypost plus equals the same thing pretty much. It's just saying our ypost. Okay, so underneath that, we're going to put xpost. So we're calling this function right here. So we're calling this great big old function right here, but we're putting it right there, is equal to mathf.clamp. And what this means is we're locking the position of our camera or locking the position of the game object. So we're going to call the variable or float that we want to use for locking, whichever one we're going to be locking pretty much. And we're going to make sure that it's the same one as we're calling. So xpost, xpost, ypost, ypost. Pretty simple, right? And of course, you're just going to put your xmin as your minimum value and xmax as your maximum value. And same thing down below with the ypost, we're going to do ymin and then ymax. And at the way bottom of this update function, we're going to put transform.position is equal to a new vector 3, xpost, 30, ypost. Keep in mind wherever you want your position of this game object to be, that's what you're going to be putting there. So take a look at this. We have our position for our y-axis at 30. So just set it at 30. Okay. So make sure that this is on this empty game object that you created. If you put it on the camera, it's going to do all forms of whacked out stuff. So just keep that in mind. So once you drag your camera control script on here, we're basically going to just cover this real fast. So I'm going to hit play. I will need to maximize off on this. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the X post position real fast so you can see exactly what we got going on. So pause. So there we go. If I move my mouse left, you notice that the X post right there is going to be changing. And of course, if I move it right, it locks at 100, Y post as well, and all that sort of stuff. And if we adjust our cam speed, there we go. We're zipping around the map. If we want to lower it, there we go as well. So it's pretty cool, and it's very easy to set up and use. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it answered a lot of your questions. If you have any more questions regarding this tutorial or any other tutorial that I have, please leave a comment in the comment section below. If you have any suggestions for the next tutorial and all, I'd be happy to hear about those. So also leave those inside the comment section below as well. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, check out some other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.